Well, I'm super excited that we're kicking off this brand new series titled Refuel, Fill Up Before You Give Up. Well, my name is Chris. I'm the lead pastor here at TCC. Well, if you're like me, you're super excited that the summer months are coming, and hopefully that means some vacation or a few days or a week or two of just slowing it down a bit and enjoying the warm Pennsylvania summer. Now, if you're new with us, taking a step in, just know that you can always go right here to tcconline.tv/refuel, and you can watch this entire series. You can listen to it. You can download it. You can also go to Facebook, YouTube. You can even download our TCC app. But remember, and this is for all of you. Yeah, this is a great tool for you, but I'm sure some point along this series, you're going to be in a conversation with a friend or a coworker or your boss or a family member, and they're going to say something about being exhausted. And guess what? Just maybe, this is something you need to send to them and just encourage them to watch it, to listen to it. You see, God wants to use your journey, your story, to intersect with someone else's story, and together you can walk with them and help them, well, especially if they're feeling a bit exhausted. Do you realize that the average human being, well, spends around a third of their life sleeping? Think about that. You and me, a third of our life just gone by sleeping. Now, for some of you, you would like to increase that number quite a bit. In fact, you would like to sleep, well, maybe a half of your life away. You love sleep. For some of you, maybe you're a type A personality or you're a time management guru and you just want to squeeze every second out of your life. You're always trying to figure out how to actually sleep less. And the thought of wasting a third of your life away is bothering you right now. Well, I wanted to help encourage you, especially if you're bothered about wasting a third of your life sleeping. Guess what? Cats? Yeah, cats, they spend around 2/3 of their life sleeping. Now, if you own a cat, you know that's true. Now, I don't own a cat, but I know people who do. And their cats, well, they just sleep all the time. 2/3 of their life, somewhere around 14 to 16 hours a day, a cat sleeps. And that might feel like a lot, but you realize in the entire animal kingdom, well, there's animals that sleep a whole lot more than cats. Yeah, a koala, and the armadillo, bats. Yeah, they sleep somewhere between 19 to 22 hours a day. And that seems unthinkable. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's animals like, well, a giraffe, an elephant, that only sleep somewhere around 3 to 4 hours a day. In fact, horses and deer sleep right around 3 hours a day. That's all. So how many hours do you want to sleep a day? Or maybe a better question, especially if you have younger kids, how many hours do you actually get to sleep a day? Well, there's something that we've all experienced personally, and well, when we experience it personally, it's really frustrating. But when we see someone else doing it, well, if you're like me, it's kind of hilarious. So if you've been on a plane, you've seen this happen before. If you've ever ridden on a train, you've seen this happen. If you've been on a long car trip, that person sitting next to you who's not driving, you've seen them do this. And if you've ever just tried to take a quick cat nap, you've done this. And there's a medical term for it. The medical term is a hypnic jerk. And the hypnic jerk is a sensation of falling when half asleep and jerking yourself awake. That's called a hypnic jerk. Now, if you're married, do not ever call your spouse a hypnic jerk. That won't end well for you. But again, you know that feeling where you're just starting to doze off and you jump awake, or when you see someone do it again, that's hilarious. But it happens to all of us, and we're desperately just trying to find moments to get rest, right? And it feels like we can't, right? Because we're jumping back awake. Now, have you ever had a good night's sleep? And in that good night's sleep, you had that amazing dream. You wake up from that dream and you look for someone to share that dream because it was one of those good dreams. Well, you better do it quickly. Why? Because experts have discovered that within 5 minutes of waking up, 50% of your dream is gone, disappears. You can't remember. And here's the thing, we know that's true. Right? You wake up, you're like, that was amazing. You go to find someone, and all of a sudden you try to tell them what your dream's about, and you start losing details, well, that quickly. Experts have also found out that within the next 5 minutes, you lose 90% of it. 90% of your dream is gone. So if it's a good dream, it's highly frustrating. But there's a benefit for this as well. If you're married, you've been married, you'll know that there's times where your spouse has a dream about you, and it's not a good one. Like you've done something frustrating, you've done something wrong in their dream. I mean, you had no part of it other than they're dreaming about you, and then they wake up and they're frustrated with you, and then they try to tell you, and guess what? That's where time's in your favor because within 5 minutes, they've already started to forget. Within 10 minutes, it's almost gone. The downside of that is they're still frustrated at you for the rest of the day. You know what I mean. Well, the Guinness Book of World Records was set with one person going the longest period of time without sleeping. And that longest period of time recorded was 11 days and 25 minutes. Now, what Guinness did was they realized how dangerous that was, and they stopped allowing people to, officially record this. And so they just capped it and said no one else will set the record. Why? Because they realized how dangerous sleep deprivation really was. But in Australia, they did a research study, and they claimed the new record was right under 19 days. 19 days that people went. I mean, that's a whole lot longer than 11 days and 25 minutes. Now, sleep deprivation is, it's a serious issue. In fact, researchers have found out that sleep deprivation will kill you more quickly than food deprivation. Think about that for a moment. And think about how much time we literally spend thinking about food compared to sleep. But what they've discovered is going longer without sleep is more harmful to our bodies than it is going without food. But in all the research and all the studying and all the insights that they've gained from that research and studying, all the experts agree on one thing, that sleep, the human need for sleep, is still a mystery. I mean, they understand that when we sleep, there's a restorative process that goes on within our bodies and within our mind. I mean, at the macro level, they understand that, but just a step beneath all of that research, they still really don't understand why we as human beings need sleep. Why do we? Why do we need to rest? What is it about our bodies, our minds that, it's so needed? Now I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and if the answer to any of these questions is yes, one yes, then this series is for you. Do you wake up feeling tired? If you say yes, this series is for you. Does it feel like you can't get enough sleep? If you answer yes, this series is for you. Are you in a constant state of exhaustion? If you said yes, this series is for you. And are you hoping that vacation will solve your exhaustion issue? And maybe as you think about this question, there's some fine print, but you know it really won't. Then this series is for you. Do you need to refuel? Now, several months ago, we were in the season called Lent. And across Lent, I wrote and posted on social media every day just to try to help all of us as we prepared for Easter celebration. Well, on day 20, I wrote something that, well, really was kind of the catalyst and the spark that started to, well, take me on this journey for us to do a series that we now call Refuel. And this is what I wrote on day 20. Have you ever found yourself sleeping 7, 8, or 12 hours and waking up tired? Have you actually taken an entire weekend just to relax and then wake up Monday morning feeling completely exhausted? This has been a season where I just do not feel rested. No matter what techniques and disciplines I try to implement, weariness continues to assault me daily. I find myself wanting to wave the white flag. Please know I completely realize that this isn't a physical issue or something that can be solved by choosing to get to bed earlier. What I am facing, and more likely you as well, is spiritual and emotional exhaustion. This type of exhaustion can't be fixed with simple tips and tricks. It's exhaustion revealing itself at the soul level. So what is the solution? Now, right after I posed that question on day 20, I wrote a couple quick thoughts that, well, started to reveal what the solution is, but in no way on one social media post with about 2 sentences could I even attempt to do justice to the solution to this exhaustion at the deeper level. And again, this is where this entire series has come from. We're going to spend the next several weeks just focusing in what is the solution. But at the very end of that post, I wrote a PS. And the PS is, well, you should get more sleep, and you should exercise, and you should eat healthily, and caring for your physical self will assist in your care for your spiritual self. Now, the series isn't about how to get more sleep and how to eat right and exercise and all of that. It's not what it's about. It's about, well, how do you discover rest at a much deeper level? But you can't ignore these things as well, because these things will help guide and impact this other rest that we're going to be talking about. Now, in part 2, I'm going to get into this thought at a much, much deeper level, but I at least wanted to state this because I think it might help you process a thought in the back of your mind. You see, there's this idea out there that if only we could strike balance in our life, if we could get balance, then life would be better and I wouldn't feel so exhausted. But balance is a myth. It's unattainable. It's not sustainable. The amount of energy it takes to try to even remotely get balance in your life, it's just not feasible. In fact, Jesus talked about something completely different. And what Jesus talked about was rhythm. A rhythm, a cadence in your life. In fact, there's a rhythm and cadence to God's creation that God created for us to live by. And it's when we focus on rhythm, not balance, we actually start to experience something that Jesus wanted us to experience. Now, there's a thought that Jesus taught that also is going to help guide this entire series. And in fact, it's the foundation that this series is built upon. And Jesus in Matthew chapter 11, this is what he says. He says, "Come to me." And this is an invitation where Jesus says, hey, I'm inviting you to come and be with me, to lead with me, to live beside me, to link arms with me, to sit at my feet. So Jesus is inviting, and then he goes, all, and you are in all. And that's important. I mean, I don't know where you are in your spiritual journey. I don't know what you think about church, what you think about God, what you think about the Bible, what you think about Jesus. I'm not sure, but I want you to know that this invitation that Jesus is extending is to you. Wherever you find yourself, he's extending it to you. Say, hey, you come to me, all who are, and then he says, weary and burdened. Now, this first word, weary, literally means from the stress and strain of life, you find yourself completely exhausted. You know what that feels like? I'm sure you do. The stress and strain of life. Has it left you completely exhausted? And then he uses the word burden. And the word burden literally means a load that's too heavy for you to carry by yourself. I mean, the spring weather is here and summer's coming, which means, hey, a ton of yard work is being done. My youngest was helping carry these massive sacks of potting mix from the truck around to the back of the yard, and she went to grab it, and she always wants to show me up that she can carry heavy things. And I looked at the size of this bag of potting mix. I'm like, Claire, do you need help? And she's like, no, Dad, I got it. I'm like, no, really, I will help you. I'm like, no, I got it. She picked it up, and her face turned all red, and she stared at me. I was like, I will help you. And she's like, no, I got it. She got it about halfway to its destination, and all of a sudden I heard this loud thunk. I looked around the house, and she's kind of laughing and staring at me, seeing if I noticed. I'm like, I would have helped you. She goes, well, I got it this far. And you see, there's something within us that we just want to handle life by ourselves. Pull up our big boy, our big girl pants, and it's like, it's mine to carry. It's my life. It's my burden. It's my load. I'm just going to carry it by myself. I don't want to rely on anyone else. And here's what we all have to realize. There's burdens in life. There's moments in life. There's scenarios in life. There's events in life. They're just too heavy for us to carry by ourselves. And that's why Jesus said, hey, come all who are worried, where stress and the strains of life have just left you exhausted. And all of you that are encountering a burden that's just too heavy for you to carry all by yourself. Come all. So let me pause. Let me ask you, what is your stress? What is the strain of your life that is just leaving you exhausted? What is your burden? Right now, you're trying to carry it all by yourself. It's just way too heavy. And you know it's too heavy. I mean, you're trying, but it's just leaving you weary, exhausted. What is it? Name it. Focus on it. Call it out. I mean, some of you are so hesitant from actually saying it out loud. I mean, writing it down and saying, yeah. This is the stress that's too heavy. This is a burden that's too, just claim it, name it. Just say, hey, this is it. This is what I'm facing. Because guess what? You know it is. This is leaving you completely exhausted. And Jesus says, come all to me who are weary and burdened. And then he goes, and I will give. You see, this is a gift that Jesus wants to give to you. A gift that he's extending to you. And what's the gift? He goes, and I'll give you rest. But remember, this series isn't about better sleep patterns, better ways to get to bed faster in the evening. And this isn't about what you need to eat during the day so you can rest better at night. All of those are important. No. This is a different type of rest that Jesus is hitting on. It's a different type of rest that if you lean into him is going to help start dealing with the exhaustion that's, at a much deeper level. And he wants to give it to you. And then he says, take my yoke. Now he's pulling in this idea that some 2,000 years ago, everyone would have clearly understood. And the image is, oxen that are connected together by a wooden yoke. And it would connect them together, and together they could accomplish so much more, exponentially more, because they were working together. And in the Jewish religious culture, the Jewish religious leaders actually use this whole image of oxen and yoke as well, kind of like a negative. They would equate it to the Old Testament Jewish law, and they would talk about the weightiness of it, the heaviness of it, the burden of the law. They would use that as, well, kind of a sledgehammer to guilt people into living a certain way. It wasn't a life-giving image, but Jesus does something with it. He goes, hey, take my yoke. So he's talking to a Jewish culture, a Jewish audience. I mean, there could have been Jewish religious leaders there who understood, well, how they taught about the yoke as this burden, this heavy load, this guilt-inducing idea. Now, Jesus is like, no, I have a different yoke. He goes, hey, take my yoke, but it also requires an action from you, which we'll get to in a moment. He goes, take my yoke upon you. And he goes, and learn. And learn. He's like, hey, there's a learning process that, well, you and me have to understand. It's something that doesn't come natural. It's not something that we just naturally do. But there's a learning process. And it's something that, well, I know I need to learn so much more about. And maybe, just maybe, you need to learn as well. He says, learn from me, because I'm, well, gentle and humble at heart. Remember, the image from the Jewish religious leaders is the yoke was not gentle. It was heavy. It was offensive. It was made to put people in their place. And Jesus like, hey, my yoke is gentle, and my yoke is humble. It's Jesus saying, I'm coming to you to serve you. It's Jesus saying to you that he's coming to you to care for you. It's Jesus saying that he's coming to help guide you. That's the heart of Jesus. And the outcome of all of this is that you will find rest for your souls. See, it's a much different rest. It's not just a physical rest where you get more sleep. No, there's a deeper rest. And that's why I think we're all exhausted. That just more sleep isn't curing the exhaustion at the soul level. Better sleep patterns isn't curing the exhaustion at the soul level. Turning off your computer, your phone at night isn't going to help solve your exhaustion at the soul level. And then Jesus ends this one little section. He goes, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He's like, this is a gift. The gift he wants to give to you. Now, I think about these three actions that, well, Jesus highlighted. Come, take, and learn. And these are the three actions that, well, I want to encourage you to focus on. You see, this first action, to come, is an invitation, but you have to accept it. Remember that. This is important. Jesus is extending the invitation to you, to all. The question is, are you going to accept his invitation? And the only way you're going to find rest for your soul is to accept his invitation. Which leads to the second action that Jesus, well, laid out for us. He goes, take. And guess what? It's going to take humility. Because think about the picture. He goes, take my yoke upon you. You have to lower yourself and choose to be submissive to him. You have to lower yourself and choose to follow his leading. You got to lower yourself and choose to follow his guiding. You got to lower yourself. The question is, are you going to humble yourself? To say, Jesus, I'm going to rely on you. My weariness, my exhaustion has come from stress and strain. I'm going to lean into you. The burden that I'm trying to carry is way too heavy for me. Jesus, I'm just going to lean into you. This is where it begins, but it's going to require you to say, I can't do it on my own. I don't have enough strength. I don't have enough courage. I don't have enough wisdom. I don't have enough guidance. I just don't have it in me. But Jesus, I'm going to choose to humble myself because I know you care for me. But remember what Jesus said? He goes, I'm gentle and humble in heart. Jesus is like, yeah, just model for me. Jesus models humility to us as he serves us. And he goes, so just be humble as well. Just be humble as well. And then he goes, learn. And this is all about living it out. How do you learn? This isn't about knowledge. Some of you have had these words memorized for decades, but you still haven't experienced rest for your soul. This isn't about information consumption. This is about, practice. Actually putting Jesus' words into practice to live it out. And we all have so much to learn when it comes to resting and the rhythm of God's rest that he created for you and me. And that's where we're going in this entire series. It's a rhythm of rest that we can experience rest for our souls. But it starts with accepting the invitation, humbling ourselves, because Jesus' yoke is light and easy. And learning from Jesus, who modeled what it was like to live in a rhythm of rest. So, let me ask you one question. How exhausted are you at the soul level? So how did you answer that question? When you start to pay attention to your exhaustion level, not just physically, not in terms of how much sleep did I get and how much sleep do I need and how much sleep do I want, but when you start lensing through your exhaustion, knowing that there's something much deeper happening within you, this question should be both deeply disturbing and revealing in all the good ways, and super encouraging. Why? Because Jesus said, come to me. Come to me. Accept that invitation. And Jesus said, hey, take. Humble yourself. Take his yoke that's light and easy. And learn. Start to put it into practice. And so this week, maybe the most significant learning for you is to come and take. To realize that there's an exhaustion that can't be solved with another self-help book about sleeping well or another YouTube video of how to manage your time better. This week, focus on coming and taking, to accepting and humbling. Maybe the greatest learning you can do this week is those first two actions. And hold on Jesus' words. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I'm gentle and humble at heart. And then you will find rest for your souls. Let's pray. Lord, I pray that every single person will accept that invitation that you're extending to them. And Lord, I pray that every single person will humble themselves to take your yoke upon them, to follow you, to lean into you, to live out what you have modeled for us and how you taught us. That, Lord, maybe, just maybe, this entire series, we all can experience a rest at a much deeper, deeper level. In your name I pray. Amen.